Hey scrappers and recyclers, it's Shark Scrapper. We're looking at a big pile of low-grade boards, but not all low-grade boards are created equal. Some of them have value in them, on them, that if you want to take the time, you can dig out some extra value. Come on, let's dive in and see what I'm talking about. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about here really depends on your situation, what your yard pays for various things, how much time you have. But I want to go through some examples of things that you could remove from a otherwise low-grade board and get some value out of it, some extra value out of it. Remember, it doesn't matter what condition the low-grade board is in, it's not going to get any lower. So if you pull some items from it, you might be able to get some additional value. This board has some very obvious things. We've got this wire here. This is actually some pretty nice wire. I'd say number 2, maybe number 1, depending on your yard. Definitely number 2 insulated copper wire. You've got some transformers here. Some yards have a category for small motors, transformers. Some yards have you throw these in with small motors. Again, it depends on your yard. If you look at this MOSFET, you can see that there's a copper color to the edge. Well, many MOSFETs have copper as their heatsink. So there's some opportunity there. And speaking of heat sinks, here we have some nice thick aluminum plates that are heat sinks, but you can bust those off and get aluminum. Remember, you have to take those MOSFETs off there. We also have on this board a number of IC chips that you could take off, a socket mounted IC chip that needs to come off, and these are old epoxy dipped tantalums. So if you're into the tantalum collection thing, you can get some tantalum there. That could go as a small motor. So right there we've got some additional value that we could pull. These solenoid switches may, I stress may, have little brass or copper arms with little tiny dollops of silver for connectors. So there's some more potential for additional value. So this is a pretty decent low-grade board to spend some time on to get additional value from it. This board has to be one of the more frustrating boards I've come across in a while. It has some real nice chips on it, and so you want to try to say, well, this should be in the peripheral category, and you might get away with putting it in peripheral low grade. Maybe, but look at all the junk that's on here. We got all kinds of caps. We've got big old transformer. We've got some nice coils here. We've got another transformer. We've got more of these copper. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of junk hanging on this board. So this could be a pretty good opportunity to spend some time depopulating some things and get some extra value. Depends on who you're selling to and how they grade things, of course, but there are some things here that could bring you some extra value. Certainly the transformer, these copper coils, real easy to get that copper out of there. There's some oscillators there. If you want to, you can bust off those chips. So there's some opportunity. Oh, also aluminum heat sinks here. So you can see there is some opportunity to get some more copper out, you know, for your collection. Now, again, it all comes down to how much time you have and what you, what you want to spend your time working on. This board, look at all these ICs, big old chunky ICs over here, but this corner is all junk. So with this board, one of your options could be to cut the board like this, and then this could go in your low grade, and then the rest of it could go in with your peripheral high grade. If it was fully populated, you could probably even get away with throwing that in telecom, but definitely peripheral high grade. Or your other approach to this could be to bust off this big heavy junk, this transformer and these caps, what people like to call copper donuts, and then yeah, peripheral high grade. But you're not going to be able to put this in telecom with all this junk hanging on it, that's for sure. This board is another particularly frustrating board because you have these gold, they're not true gold fingers, but they're pretty close to being gold fingers. You can see they're gold on both sides. And Chris at boardsort.com likes to use the expression, no visible gold in the low-grade pile. But this transformer, I'm pretty sure that's a transformer, is just monstrously heavy. So I would venture to say that 95% of the weight on this board is this transformer. So you have some interesting options here. Bust off the transformer, and then if you look in here, some people like to call these ice cubes, but this is a real good example of the armature here, and then the little silver dollops on the ends there, those little round silver dollops. Some people really like to get those for the extra value there. And then the other part of the solenoid is this copper coil here, and that's usually pretty easy to bust that open and get the copper off of that. Here's an interesting example of what some people might want to put in with backplane boards because they see all of these slots, but this is not a backplane board. You got all kinds of junk hanging on here, so clearly not a backplane board, although it may have functioned as one. Yeah, you know, you've got a lot of junk weight hanging on this thing. You do have some nice ICs in here, so your approach here might be to pull these ICs and then pull that transformer for your motor transformer, and then you can throw that in with low grades and not get too worried about it. Now, just because the board itself is a brown brittle board, which by definition is going to be a low grade board, some of the components might not be low grade. So for instance, this one has a number of ICs. Now, depending upon the age of the board and what the board came from, those ICs might actually still be gold bearing ICs. So it might be worth your time to depopulate those ICs. You're certainly not going to downgrade this board any more than what it already is. With this board, you might want to get these aluminum heat sinks, slant shields off of here. Plus you have some nice big chunky transformers. And if you look on the sides, you see some toroids. That's those copper wires looped around a ferrite core. So that can be a good source for copper. On the other side, we have some copper coils right in there. So there's some value in here if you choose to go after it. The additional value on this board is obviously the wire. Looks like number 2 insulated. And then you have these chunky aluminum heat sinks here. Those are real nice. We have an IC that we can pull off. Is that an IC? Yeah, I think that's an IC. And some more tiny little ICs if you want to waste your time going after those. Solenoid might have silver dollops in it. And then there's a little tiny transformer. But again, if you bust all that stuff off of there, you've taken away the weight that you know, to the board. But you know, what I'm probably going to do is pull the wire, pull the aluminum heat sinks, and maybe that IC, because it'll be easy to grab hold and twist off. That's about it. And these links that are popping up are going to help you find more videos on how to identify and grade your printed circuit boards, plus a link to a video that the YouTube algorithm thinks you want to see. And around one in the middle is to help you to subscribe if you haven't done that already, so you don't miss a single episode of Shark Scrapper. Take care and have a great day.